both opposing sides of the spectrum. One is a 3-prize Behemoth, and the other is a single-prize Pokemon. And a very interesting match as Duraludon VMAX's ability does stop, on paper, the whole deck of Regigigas, as you can't damage it with special energies, but of course Regigigas does have the path to a peak to stop that.
Yeah, the path to the peak adaptation for Regigigas to kind of beat these Duraludon decks. Every tournament, there's still a few of them. There's always those die-hard fans, those true hopefuls that believe in the power of the Duraludon, because you just can get a lot of free wins when your opponent doesn't expect it. And in order to counter the path to the peak deck, we've seen some of them adapt, the Duraludon players that is, by not evolving, just sticking with the Duraludon V and just swinging in and taking 6 prizes. So we'll see if Riley Mckay is just going to go for the full evolution, try to beat down the path to the peak or not. But with the prizes coming through, 3 metal energies in the prizes is a little bit rough to get that with the Arceus, but that all remains to be seen how this matchup is going to play out.
Yeah, those 3 metal energies are pretty bad, as you do need the metal energies attached to the Duraludon V in order to do enough damage to knock out a Regigigas. But with 3 of them being prized, that's half of them, and that's going to be very problematic if they end up trying to go for the non-evolving strategy, which is definitely counterintuitive to what you would think would be for your deck, but it's definitely viable in this particular matchup.
And I love the concept, right, of going for such a counterintuitive strategy in order to find an edge in your matchup. Jack Moore now opening up with Regidrago in the active. Having that Dragon's Horde is great if you can thin the hand down enough on turn 1. Aurora Energy is really going to help with that. And a Gift Energy going to be the discard target.
Yeah, the dream with the Regi deck is to get those Aurora energies early. That way you have access to every single Regi attack that you could possibly want. And a pretty passive turn, but you can't ask for much more from Jack.
Yeah, just going to go over to Riley. Even doesn't try to do any shenanigans with Scoop Up Net on the Regidrago. There was nothing to thin down the hand a little bit more. And just a passive draw. And now that we're over to Riley, opening up the Arceus V, finds the Pokegear 3.0. 7 cards, and which supporter is the best? Colress indeed is the selection.
Colress allows you to dig a little bit deeper into the deck, find those resources, and if you're Riley, you really want to find ideally a double turbo and a Duraludon to start powering up. I think you're okay with an energy attachment onto the Arceus. As long as you don't miss that, then you're able to start applying pressure next turn. But you do rely on Jack not getting that full bench of Regis and the double Aurora power-up on the Regirock.
With such a passive turn 1, Riley might be lured into a false sense of security, but you do want to offer that respect, right? We've seen the Regi decks really pop off, get those early attacks when they want it, and if you give a single prize deck such an early prize advantage, it gives them a lot of time to find those resources and find those outs to close out the game. So with the Colress's experiment, another Pokegear going to the Lost Zone, and we do finally have the attachment onto the Arceus V. I love the attachment of the fighting energy here as well, because those metal energies are at a bit more of a premium.
Yeah, now Riley getting a pretty good start. Those double Duraludon Vs, they only play 2 because they really want to start with Arceus, so finding both of them on turn 1 is actually really, really beneficial. However, no deck search has been done, so Riley doesn't know yet that he prized 3 out of the 6 metal energies that he does play.
And over to Jack, the twin energy here being attached to the Regidrago. Going to try to pay for that retreat cost. Here's the Marnie. Going to thin down, and hopefully we get, some other discards. We want more Aurora energies. We want to get those in the discard pile. Dragon's Horde still going to be available. So now going up to 5. Alecki. We need still Regigigas, Regirock. Tall Order. Trekking Shoe's going to help out a little bit here as well.
Tall Order indeed, especially since Jack already attached the energy for turn off the twin. Even if he was able to fill up the bench with Regis, he wouldn't be able to get an attack off unless he finds a way to discard that other Aurora energy in his hand. And surprisingly, he also discards the Marnie. Now that Ultra Ball is huge.
Gives up on Marnie, gives up on a little bit of long-term benefit for a short-term payoff. Has that discard to get the Aurora energy into the discard pile finally.
Yeah, that will allow Jack to be able to attack. They can find another of the missing Regis off of this Ultra Ball. They have a Lek in hand. So whether they find Rock or Gigas, they need to get one of the other missing 2 in order to get this turn 1 attack, and that would put Riley in a really bad spot.
Hopefully the resources will be there. Just finally taking a quick deck search, seeing where all the Regis are. Decides to pick up the Gigas here. And after the shuffle, we need to dig just a little bit more to grab Regirock. This could just be another slow turn. Normally you think you have a little bit more time in this matchup, but seeing the doubled bench Duraludon V, if those knockouts start to come through a little bit earlier, then you get thrown off of your groove. You have to start using your ordinary rods and bringing the Regis back and finding those.
Yeah, Jack only being one quick ball away from being able to attack this turn. He does have the Dragon Sword ability still left, so we'll have to see if in this top 4 cards they can find the Regirock, and I don't think they can, but they do find the Path to the Peak, which on paper is great, right?
Ooh, hesitating on the Path to the Peak gives it away.
Yeah, it does show the Path to the Peak, but that will stop the, or potentially stop the V-Star from taking place, but Riley, fortunately, or actually he was holding a Stadium, but he got Marnie, so never mind, he doesn't have it anymore.
Also considering the retreat on the Regidrago just to get those special energies into the discard pile, try to set up for the Gigas. It is a bit of a tall order without the Regirock present, and then you're pre-committing by getting this Regidrago out of the active spot. You're losing access to the Dragon's Horde.
Yep, because Jack did give up on that Marnie off of the trekking shoes in order to try and aggressively go for the attack. He does end up being in a weird spot.
So does the manual retreat into the escape rope instead to bring up the Duraludon V. This is going to move the Arceus V out of the active spot, so now we don't have that Trinity Nova, that Trinity Charge to get the energy accelerated. This potentially could buy Jack a lot of time. And as we head back over to Riley, we do have one Metal Energy in the hand. Is that another Pokegear coming through, finding a supporter? Is it another Colress from this spot, or maybe something different this time, Pablo?
I mean, there's one Colress already used, one in the Lost Zone, and another one at the bottom of the deck. So very unlikely to find one of those, but we could see the Marnie. I think that's the most likely option to be found, and there we go.
All right, the Marnie is grabbed. Riley still trying to find a way out of this kind of clunky hand. Duraludon is a deck that once it gets set up, it's good to go, but is a very, difficult deck to get set up, especially without access to Starbirth yet.
Yeah, now, this is the first, I believe, deck search that Riley's going to do, and he did end up discarding one Metal Energy. So with 3 in the prizes, there's 2 left in the deck, and that means even if you try and make it so that you don't evolve, Duraludon can no longer take a knockout on any of the Regis at this point, other than Regi that it would hit for weakness. So this could complicate things quite a bit. And I don't know, when you're playing Duraludon, you don't usually check for your specific energies, and we see Riley not taking the time to do that. So I think if he's able to find a Stadium and goes for a Starbirth and then manages to power up a Duraludon, he's going to be very surprised by the lack of Metal Energies in his deck.
And the Marnie does come through. Raihan's going to go down to the bottom of the deck. We'll try to get that out later on, hopefully. With the evolution into the Arceus V-Star, we do, if we can find a way to bump this Path to the Peak, that is, get the Starbirth to find those missing cards. Generally, there's always that tug of war with the Arceus Duraludon decks, where do you want to use the Starbirth later on to get that closing card, or do you need to use it to complete your setup?
Yeah, no, Jack definitely with a sigh of relief after that Marnie, because his hand was actually not great. And Riley doesn't find the Path to the Peak counter, but does find the combination of a switching card and a double turbo to start powering up and getting energy on the board. But this is where the bad news comes for Riley.
So after the charge, we see one Metal Energy and another one, but just not enough to get, again, onto this Duraludon V. It's going to be all in on just the one Duraludon V. This has to stay alive. This has to do a lot of work, because once this goes down, those energies are going to be really hard to come by.
Yep, with the lack of Metal Energies, then you really can't afford the no evolution strategy too much. Does decide to spread the energy, which is very surprising. Jack choosing to read the Duraludon to see if that's going to be a threat, and that's probably Riley's best approach at this point. But with the lack of energy, two-shotting Regis is never a good deal.
Once you get, especially some of the larger Regis like Gigas in the active spot, you're threatening to take 3 and then survive through. We've got Choice Belt as well as part of this experiment. And look at this. The 3 Metal Energies at the top of the prizes still going to be pretty hard to come by the longer this game goes.
And this means Riley will probably be forced to evolve at some point, which is ironic, right? Like, when was the last time you saw that evolving actually hurt you instead of benefited you?
The path to the peak is such a fantastic tech for that reason. You're forcing your opponent to play into your hands. Taking 3 prizes is so strong, and it's one of the best angles that these single prize decks have to approach the metagame, is giving up only 1 prize a turn and being able to take 2 or 3 in response. Regi Steel is found. We still have to find that Regi Rock, and capture energy is going to be the way to do it. So now we've got Ancient Wisdom online.
Yeah, Thursday's turn, and that would be pretty fantastic for him, as the Arceus V-Star, of course, worth 2 prizes, would have only taken 1 at this point. So you never want to trade your 2 prizer for only a single prize.
And this is not, Lugia. There's no Stoutland V. There's no way to come back. You have to just take the prize and then have your Pokemon survive that turn, not get knocked out to get another prize. Cape of Toughness going to come down onto the Regi Rock just to protect it a bit. Dragon's Horde for 3. For 2, pardon me.
Yep, 2 research, 1 choice belt, 1 ultra ball, so nothing really major here. Jack's gonna go for the research, hoping for the scoop up net, and even if he doesn't, I think he's still in a very good spot, and that Cape of Toughness on the Regi Rock is a really good idea because it prevents the return KO from the Duraludon, forcing the evolution.
And has the scoop up net, so everything's coming together for this turn. We can scoop up net the Regidrago, get the Gigas up, or whatever attacker you'd like, and is already getting the special energy shuffled up to the front of the discard pile for the Ancient Wisdom.
Even has the gift energy for protection against Marnie or Judge or any shenanigans that Riley might do. Really, really nice setup for Jack, taking it 1 turn at a time, and that Marnie that Riley ended up playing actually saved Jack pretty big.
There's always that risk. You're going for Marnie, you're trying to go for Disruption. Sometimes you need to do it just so you can see a few more cards, and then you just activate your opponent's offense towards you. Regi Rock now going to be set up thanks to Ancient Wisdom after this Heavy Ball resolves, and we can hit this Arceus V-Star for weakness.
Yeah, now the prize is getting reshuffled. That Ordinary Rod at the bottom is actually pretty important for Jack, as of course he expects his Pokemon to start going down after his turn, and recovering those Regis and getting all of them in play is very, very key.
And there's the Giga Impact. 2 prizes for Jack Moore, and it's back over to Riley. Can take 1 prize here in response to keep things evened up, but now it's just Duraludon V versus the world.
And what a hand by Riley. 3 Boss's Orders, a copy of Duraludon VMAX, I believe, and a Marnie, and he decides to
just concedes it. Yes, I like this idea. We know that these single prize matchups are going to go for a long time. We know that Duraludon, a deck that's very defensive, wants to kind of drag the game out a little bit more, so needs to save that time. 38 minutes left on the clock, and Jack Moore up 1-0.
Yeah, Riley recognized that his chances of winning this game, even if he was able to counter the stadium for a while, Jack was only down 1, right? So any path to peak would have just immediately meant another 3 prizes. He wouldn't have had anything else powered up, and that's only if he was able to find the fighting energy off of his Marnie. So recognizing that is very, very important, and just scooping up and moving on to the next game to see if they can finish up 2 more games and make this comeback.
Regi's is a very, I should say, surprisingly consistent deck, or maybe even unsurprisingly at this point. It looks like it has too many hoops to jump through to set up and get its strategy through, but in this particular matchup, it's kind of fine if you have a slower start with Regi's, because you can just hide behind the path to the peak, because you're denying that Starbirth to the Duraludon Arceus player. They also have a massively delayed start, and you have more time to get established. And Duraludon,
dead.
In this metagame, where it is, you have to be faster paced. You have to be a bit more progressive with your own game plan. Giving your opponent too much time to set up can spell disaster.
Absolutely, and especially Regi's is a deck that, against any rule box matchup such as this one, you don't need to start attacking immediately, as you mentioned. You have, in theory, you could start attacking when your opponent has 3 prize cards left and still beat them, because you take 2 from an Arceus, 3 from a Duraludon VMAX, and 3 from the next. But if they are able to use the Duraludon V strategy, it gets a little more complicated, but then the Regi Ice needs to come in to delay the Duraludon V, and then it's on the Duraludon player to find the switching card. So there's a very interesting dynamic that can happen, but not when you prize 3 of your metal energies. Then it becomes impossible.
And as we look at the prizes now, we've got 1 Fighting Energy, a Colress is pretty rough, but nothing too bad. A couple Marnies and a Regidrago for Jack means that looking through the deck and finding those key cards is going to be a bit more difficult. So Jack, if he doesn't get a strong start, could be dead in the water. But starts with the second Regidrago in the active. The Dragon's Horde going to come through clutch. Riley opening us up with the double turbo energy attachment. Back when Arceus V-Star was the tier 1 deck in the meta, this was the turn 1 you needed to do constantly.
Yeah, much different situation from the previous game, and this Regidrago start looks like it's a very good one, but then if your other Regidrago is prized, that does mean that if you want to get a turn 2 attack after the active has gone down, you're going to need either the Heavy Ball or to recover the current Regidrago and then search for it again. So not the best, not the worst, but having 3 supporters prized as well for Jack could spell problems, at least in the middle of the game.
Big decision to be made here. Quick Ball discarding the Speed Lightning Energy, which seems to be the best target, but you're giving up on a little bit more card draw. I think this just signals that Jack isn't going to try to do any, really overextending sort of plays here to go for the turn 2 attack with the Regirocket and try to get a quick 2-0, especially when you're up 1-0. We see this a lot where players will let up on the gas just a bit because now you have a 1-game buffer.
Yeah, exactly. And that can also lead to other riskier plays, right? Where if you go for the riskier turn 1 attack all out and then you whiff, and then it's very costly, then you still have a whole other game to really recover. So it definitely can go both ways. Different styles of players will favor one aggressive style or the more conservative style over the other. But right now we are seeing Jack in a comfortable spot with that game lead. But Riley, this game should be very, very different, I feel. And because he did go for the double bench Duraludon and he split his energies, I'm pretty sure he's very aware of the right approach against the Regi deck.
If Jack's hand was just a little bit better, could have seen that, could have seen that come through. But we'll get the prizes reset as well. Don't pay attention to that right now. It's all about the Regis here. We get the gift energy attached to Regi Steel and the scoop up net. I like the promotion here, getting the Regidrago down onto the bench and getting this gift energy set up. Jack is committed to this slower start and also protecting that very important Regi.
Interesting that Jack could have drawn 1 card, I believe, off of the... No, actually, no. Well, maybe with the Dragon's Horde, and he chose not to. I'm not sure. But anyways, I mean...
Yeah, probably just because of the Marnie coming up, didn't want to draw something that was going to get shuffled back down to the bottom.
Yeah, though, this protection of the Regidrago, I think, is a direct response to the fact that the other Regidrago is prized. And I feel like if, as an opponent of a Regi deck, if you're paying a lot of attention to your opponent's actions and how protective they are of this Regidrago, you might have an inkling that the other Regidrago is actually prized. It's a very subtle tell, but it's a tell nonetheless.
Yeah, the gift energy onto the Regi Steel. I wonder if Riley's going to pick up on that. Maybe try to chase down this Regidrago and buy tons of time. The distribution of the prizes means that Jack isn't going to get that Regidrago anytime soon. He's going to be forced to find Heavy Ball.
I mean, if he had the option, he'd definitely be encouraged to do it even more because the gift energy is in the active. And seeing the board currently, Regidrago is the one that could unlock Jack's board in case he's drawing dead, right? But unfortunately, Riley, I don't think he has, unless he top decks the Arceus V-Star, he's going to end up playing another Marnie, which might end up helping Jack a little bit, but most importantly will not allow Riley to play around this gift energy as he would like.
We've seen players do that dance of just putting the gift energy on the bench, denying that card draw. After Jack uses the Regi Gate to get Regi Ice in the bench. Back over to Riley. We do have that Marnie. It doesn't look like there's really anything else his hand wants to do. There's a Quick Ball, I believe, and grab Duraludon V. Or is that an Ultra Ball? No, Quick Ball to get rid of the Escape Rope. Okay.
Choosing to get rid of the Escape Rope is very peculiar, though. That's how you could have actually played around the gift energy. And if you're going to Marnie your opponent, then I do feel like there would be an advantage to doing that. So I'm very surprised at that choice of this card, especially because you can play it before you play the Quick Ball in order to prevent you from switching in. Now, of course, Riley choosing to favor whatever's left in his hand. I know there's a Marnie and Energy, and I'm not sure what's the other card. but he valued that resource over the escape rope playing around gift energy. So we'll see how that plays out into the rest of the game.
And if this Marnie comes through, we don't see the Arceus V-Star. You're just going for Trinity Charge to not
situation to be able to take another prize or to like at least attack, I feel.
Okay.
But I don't know. I feel like Riley could have preemptively used that V-Star. I think that was a little greedy on his side.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things where the Duraludon VMAX deck was kind of just chilling with Skyscraper for a little bit, and then Regi's adapted. And now the way to counter-adapt by relying very heavily on Duraludon V with that hard coat ability is just maybe not widely disseminated enough.
Yeah, that could be.
But now we've got the full Regis on the bench.
Yeah, so we're guaranteed an attack here, and they did find the Scoop Up Net, so if there's enough Aurora Energies in the discard pile, we're going to see the same KO on the Arceus V-Star. And that's also another thing that could happen, which means that like you didn't get to V-Star at all, right?
Yeah.
Like now
so
you
now
definitely
Starbirth is
can't.
denied.
Yeah, not only by the path, but also by the KO of the Arceus V-Star.
So this is going to be a big loss of resources, a potential punish using the escape rope, and then it's all the way back down to Duraludon V to keep in this game. And this is game number 2. Jack Moore's in an incredibly comfortable position here. Still 27 minutes left on the clock. And after this Ancient Wisdom comes through, we've got the Aurora Energy coming out. Or was that the attach return?
Yeah, that's the attach return.
Okay.
Yeah, so still plenty of time to...
Discards research. That's 3 research down, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, a lot of resources gone. 3 prizes as well. I feel like there's the Aurora Energy there, and there's... I believe I saw a Scoop Up Net, so I don't know why Jack is not choosing to take the KO on the Arceus here, but...
So just wants to use... Yeah, just wants to go into a little bit of damage on the active and a little bit more damage on the bench. I guess maybe picking up on a little bit of Riley's shaky start and just saying, I'm going to sprinkle some damage around and just take a big, like, multi-prize turn, especially with Path to the Peak. That Starbirth is going to be locked down potentially for another 2 turns, and this might just be Jack making the read that Riley's not going to have a way to get out of this situation.
Yeah, I mean, that must be some next level hand reading, because how could they know there's no counter stadium or anything? I don't know. I'm really trying to understand what Jack's line of play here. Like 40 damage on the Duraludon could be important if they do evolve, but they're clearly showing that they're not going to be attaching those 3 metal energies. So why not just eliminate the Arceus already with your Regirock and I don't know, take it from there. I'm not understanding this, but thankfully for him, there's no stadium to counter that Path to the Peak, so he will be getting away with that.
Yeah, just being rewarded for taking a very audacious line, right? The Regieleki in the active spot, continuously threatening the active and the benched Pokemon to prep for easier knockouts down the road, especially with that gift energy attached. This is maybe some sort of high-level bait by Jack as well to say, knock out this Regieleki, don't hunt down my Regidrago. That's been the play that Jack's been trying to put forth this entire second game, is just putting up more enticing targets for Riley. But at this point, I think if you're Riley Mckay, it's more of a tunnel vision strategy. You're focused purely on stabilizing from this point. Getting something in the active spot that can attack consistently isn't going to take too much damage. And also getting rid of this Path to the Peak.
Yeah, now there is merit in terms of Riley. Now the Arceus V-Star will have attack twice, right? So, okay, you didn't get to V-Star, which is a little unfortunate. Actually, they do find the Lost City, so they will be able to V-Star this turn. But I don't know. This game could be completely different if players had just done a few things differently. But now we're going to see Arceus take 2 prizes, and then potentially each Duraludon take 2 other prizes, which is really, really good.
Yeah, and the players, that's what you like to see. The matchup might go a certain way, depending on how you expect it to go. And then it just comes down to draws, the player's mentality and mindset, and, you know, just how they're feeling out their opponent. Because a player that's maybe up 1-0, you won that first game, you're going to be taking different lines potentially heading into game number 2. So Overall, Riley still managing to stay in this one. Takes another prize. Yeah. And didn't get the Lost City set up, so Regi Lecky's just going to go to the discard pile.
Yeah, he actually very smartly chose to hold that Lost City, because if next turn he could combine that Lost City with a Boss's Orders on the Registeel, then that's it for Jack. Yeah, once he powers up this Regirock, that's all the Pokemon he's going to be powering up, and definitely not the one you want to be powering up. Yeah, and then that's where the Duraludons can overturn the game. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening here by both players, but definitely interesting lines of play.
Yeah, I think that's just might be what Riley's been planning this whole time, is just this double Lost City line. And with the Ultra Ball, Heavy Ball actually being discarded here. Jack not going to be worried about getting the Regidrago anytime soon. And discards the Serena as well.
Yeah, I mean, that Regidrago definitely not the priority right now for Riley. It's going to be that Registeel. We'll have to see. If there's a Marnie being played, then that takes away the potential Boss plus Lost City play. But yeah, Jack in a weird spot, and now he's going to use the Regirock, which he could have used last turn. So interesting decision making, and valuing the Regirock way more last turn than they are this turn.
Yeah, you're hitting for weakness, you're getting the knockout, 2 prizes over to your side, and you have to overcome the Duraludon V. There's still so much counterplay outside of not just the refusal to evolve into VMAX, but again, the Lost City angle, which is so dire sometimes. And we've seen some players, right, what they'll do is they'll use Ancient Wisdom and then scoop up net one of their Regis, keep that in the hand, so that way they can maybe bring it back out when they need to use that Ancient Wisdom once more. But Jack going to go for the Ordinary Rod now. Puts that Regieleki back in and a Regigigas.
I mean, if Jack definitely has the foresight here to expect the Lost City and the boss onto the Registeel, then he could certainly pick that up, and that would explain the previous hand where he was able to keep the Scoop Up Net in there. So we'll have to see. If it is, then that's some really good planning and foresight from Jack. We'll have to see if that's what ends up happening here.
Yeah, we've been trying to figure out their lines and the logic there, but they're playing this matchup on a different plane. Like they're just one step, one layer above, trying to outplay the outplay. That's the final Professor's Research for Jack Moore. So 7 more cards off the top. Another Ordinary Rod. Scoop Up Net is glorious.
All right, I mean, they do find that new Scoop Up Net, so they can still protect that Registeel, but they could have already powered up the Regirock and then protected. I don't know. I feel like if you really wanted to protect the Registeel, then not playing the Scoop Up Net the previous turn and just conserving the Steel in hand would have been ideal. You don't have to play a Research just because you have it, but we'll have to see. Does Jack play the Scoop Up Net to save the Registeel? And he's eyeing it.
And the Registeel is safe in the hand. We get that Giga Impact to hit for weakness on the Arceus V-Star. That's going to go down. No Star Birth for Riley. Still has to get this Path to the Peak out of the way. Sending Regirock to the Lost Zone isn't going to be that big a deal. We still have to find Lost City. And what are we bossing up next? The Regigigas maybe finds the Drago. If we can send this to the Lost Zone, it's still a really good play from this position. There's a manual attached for turn on Duraludon V, and so this guy's ready to start swinging.
Yeah, will be interesting to see if Riley can catch on that prized Regidrago. Of course, that if by playing the boss, it would reset the already powered up Regirock, but Jack taking a really, really, really big risk. Like, I can't emphasize how risky it was to just do what he did by hoping to draw the other Scoop Up Net when he already had it, right? So it worked out in the end, but if he hadn't gotten that Scoop Up Net, then I'm pretty sure Riley would be playing that Lost City down, going for the boss, and essentially finishing the game at that point.
And both players checking the discard piles. This is a battle of resources. You have to put the right cards down at the right time, and this is one of those matches where it rarely comes down to, it seems, one side taking 6 prizes. It's more about completely shutting down your opponent's strategy, taking the wind out of their sails. Regirock goes down. Riley still being very specific about the right moment to employ the Lost City. Regice comes into the active. Might start seeing some Blizzard binds come through. Registeel was still safe in the hand, which is great to see. And after Registeel comes back down, we still have to find Regirock. And because that Scoop Up Net was discarded, like you talked about, Pablo, this is, you have to make the choice. I got to power up Regi Ice, or do I let this go down? Am I just going to manually attach and go for Regi Gate?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jack is holding the Quick Ball and, of course, the Regi Steel in order to search. For the Regi actually has Quick Ball and Capture Energy, so they will be able to refill their bench, and they did get 2 Marnies out of the prize cards last turn. So they will be able to disrupt Riley's plan of holding the Lost City and the boss to hunt down that Regi Steel. So those 2 prizes being super, super key for Jack here.
The Lost City, I know you'd want to maybe almost just play it down and put something else in the Lost Zone. But because there is 3 Lost City, right? You use the first one just to set up 2 targets, where Regi Steel number 1 is in the Lost Zone, then Regi Rock or whatever, number 1 is in the Lost Zone. And so then you have 2 different Regis that force Jack to have double scoop up net, and it becomes even more awkward. Try to get some pressure up that way, but Riley, now with 3 prizes remaining, might be kind of shifting gears into, okay, well now I'm just going to start hitting every turn, and I don't have to worry about directly shutting down the Regi deck, because the pressure's all on Jack. If you make that misstep with the Regi Steel, if you misstep with this Regi Drago, you are not able to respond and keep up your attack train.
And now there we do see the Marnie, and Riley hadn't done much with their hand, so maybe they were hoping they weren't going to get Marnie. Like, Jack wouldn't expect them to be holding exactly the cards they needed in order to hunt down that Regi Steel, but we do see the Marnie. Jack's not really looking for anything in particular.
It's one more card, I think.
Yep, Jack's missing one card.
He's in judge mode. One more card.
One more card of
one
the
more
Marnie.
Card draw.
They only drew 4, so hopefully the judges can pick up on that on the table.
Draw a card. It's not a judge. It's a Marnie.
No,
draw a card.
Oh no! Wait, that's the Marnie card. That's the Marnie card.
Okay.
Okay. They didn't play anything, right? They drew 4.
Maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed there was like an attachment. I think it was a choice belt attached. Maybe I'm overreacting.
I think the choice belt was before the Marnie, though.
Okay, well they'll get it sorted. It's the judge versus Marnie, and players have been playing against a lot of different supporters this tournament. It's round 7, and the difference between one card has been massive over the course of the tournament. So we're going to need to reinvestigate this, but Ancient Wisdom's going to come through regardless to attach onto the Regi Ice.
Okay. All right, so I think it was the gift energy.
Okay, it was the gift energy.
The fifth card. Interesting to see that the choice belt was not attached to the Regi Ice in the active, because then that would have set up the 2-hit KO on the Duraludon without evolving, right? So very interesting to see that.
Okay, yeah, I was definitely overreacting. Thank goodness there.
I also missed it, don't worry. Things are going by so fast.
There's so much riding on these turns. You're focused more on the macro, and sometimes even players kind of get sucked into that mindset of focusing too much on the macro of the matchup, and then your housekeeping, so to speak, might fall to the wayside. But now the ball is back over to Riley's court, and we've got another Duraludon VMAX thinned out of the deck, still not evolving as of yet, but the Duraludon Vs are, getting slowly but surely damaged, and it's just 4 more prizes for Jack Moore to take, 2 more KOs for Jack Moore to take to close out this best of 3.
All right, so we do see a Marnie being played. I'm pretty sure there was a switch being played as well. That's why the new Duraludon is in the active spot. And there's the 5 versus 4 cards. And yeah, I mean, Riley has 2 attackers set up, is down to 2 prize cards. So somehow Jack needs to prevent Riley from taking a KO next turn in order to be able to take over this match. Otherwise, it's Riley's game to lose.
And if we do take this to a game number 3, things get dicier, because we've seen both players demonstrate the main strategy of how they want to approach the matchup, and then the adaptations therein. And there's a lot more angles, it seems, for Riley to really throw a wrench into Jack's plan than vice versa.
Yeah, now the choice belt on the Regi Drago might actually become relevant here with the 40 damage on that Duraludon. Regi Drago can actually take a KO with the Path to a Peak being in play and shutting off the ability. So that might be a very important decision that Jack did a couple turns ago, might come into play right now. And we do see the Regi Ice being drawn off the gift energy too.
So once that is all ready to go, Regidrago does indeed find its way into the active spot, has the choice belt equipped, and is threatening now the Giant Fangs, I believe the attack is called. Lining up with that 40 damage is beautifully mapped, Pablo, indeed.
Yeah, Riley might be out of luck here because once Jack takes the KO, that other Duraludon is in range of pretty much any attack that Jack chooses to use, so Riley might be forced to evolve and hope that the ability of Duraludon VMAX can carry it through.
And you got to remember, you know, this Regidrago is still the only one. It's been babied a lot throughout this game, and now that it's finding its way into the active to be a good attacker, Riley maybe does still have an angle for, you know, the Lost Zone, the Lost City to come through, send this to the Lost Zone, and then Jack is just dead in the water, unable to get another Regidrago out.
Yep, it all comes down to Jack potentially having that extra path to peak to go through Duraludon VMAX's ability, but it does seem like they have it already in hand, so it's on Riley to disrupt them enough and take that card away. Otherwise, the Regi is sitting there pretty, but if the Regidrago falls down, we know the other one is still prized, so we'll have to see if that is the determining factor in this match.
A lot riding on this. You know, Jack is getting nervous. 13 minutes left in the round. You have to reach out and take this win, because when you're playing a single prize deck like this, even if you are in a good spot, even if you are in a good matchup, sometimes your opponent can do a lot to delay your ability to take prizes, and then you are taking a winning best of 3 and suddenly it becomes a tie. So now we have all the attachments to the Regidrago, and Giant Fangs comes through for 2 more prizes.
Regidrago, though, still being prized, so we see a Lost City plus Duraludon VMAX play in this turn that could be the very difficult for Jack in order to get that last attack going, because if you have the path to a peak, doesn't matter if you don't have all your Regis out to power up, and we do see a Raihan just for the metal, though, not for the fighting. Oh, we're going to see a Hyper Potion heal. Very nice.
Wow. Okay, so not even trying to find the Lost City here, is fine with being locked by Path to the Peak, is just going to go for Hyper Potion. Going to try to stall out just a little bit more and swing this prize trade back into his favor.
Now, this is very good because with the heal of the Hyper Potion, if they have another energy, then that's the
good. Double turbo Hyper Potion combo, classic.
And now it comes. Oh, and the big parasol preventing Regi from doing its effect on the Duraludon, meaning it can certainly attack next turn. And with Jack having no way to one-hit KO this Duraludon, that could be game over.
Yeah, the refusal to put that VMAX in play. No residual damage down on the Duraludon V, and Jack has to scoop it up and take it to a game 3.
What a game. I feel like both players had very good chances of potentially winning. They both took very different lines than the obvious, I guess, or the expected, and it ends up paying off for Riley. I think we also saw like Marnie every single turn basically of this match at the end.
Yeah, the players are just fencing with the Marnies back and forth, disrupting the hands. If you want to make something happen, you need to have the cards immediately. And it seemed like such a dream scenario for Jack, right? The Starbirth never went off. The Path to the Peak was in play the entire time. And just when it came down to the wire, did not have enough damage to hit through. And as we go into game number 3, both players have kind of gotten a lot of feeling for their opponent's playstyles and tendencies in these matchups. I think it's really going to be up to Riley to pick up once more on those early signals to figure out which Regi that Jack Moore is maybe babying a little bit and hunt it down. Get it into the discard pile or the Lost Zone, force out those early ordinary rods to bring those Regis back to start getting the attacks up and running.
Yeah, he's not going to think like that.
With 10 minutes left on the clock, it's going to be very difficult for either player, I feel, unless one of them like really breaks badly. I think it's going to be tough to close out this game, but I mean, even at a 5-1-1 record, you have 2 win-and-ins for day 2. That's still really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time for it, Pablo. Game number 3, Jack's going to do the turn 1 Regi rock into just the Arceus V, right? No. That's the trick. That's how we're going to make this one pop off. And when you're going into game number 3, Is Jack going to choose to go first or second here?
Ooh, double Regigigas prize. I feel like you always choose first because then you get 2 turns to really try and get something going.
Oh, man.
But yeah, with 2 Regigigas prize, that does mean that Jack will need to find the heavy ball because he only plays 2 copies of Regigigas in his deck.
All right, it's heavy ball or bust. It's going to be very difficult, right? Getting all the Regis and then getting the energies in the discard pile are very, very tall asks for this deck. The stars aligned every once in a great while, but when you also have to throw a Hisuian heavy ball into the mix, there's not a way for this deck to tutor, to grab the heavy ball when they need it. They just have to draw into it, and so this is going to be the Dragon's Horde of Destiny, Pablo.
Indeed, yeah. This lack of direct search for item cards, of course. The heavy ball is there as a backup plan. Your chance of prizing 2 of the same Regi is about 1 in 100, so it's not super likely. But it is a risk, right?
Yeah. And when we look at prizes, Riley actually prizing 2 Arceus V and 1 Arceus V Star. So that is going to be a 2-1 line remaining in the deck to try to get the Starburst. But fortunately starts with an Arceus V in the active. And Regidrago showing up. Bidding down now for the Dragon's Horde. Jack Moore opening up Regieleki onto the bench. Speed Lightning for the attachment. Going to draw 2 cards for the turn. Finds a scoop up net.
And finds, they already have 2 Aurora energies in hand. So Jack really could not have asked for a better start in terms of energy attachments instead of in terms of resources. But now he's about to find out the bad news. The double Gigas.
The double Gigas missing. You just got to play out the rest of the turn like normal and just hope this heavy ball. It's actually at the bottom of the deck. It's a good thing we have the search here with the quick ball. Try to shuffle that up. Try to get it within the top-ish of the deck. Regi Ice comes through off the quick ball.
This is where it's very important to keep a very calm tempo, very calm phase, and not give out any information to your opponent that you're worried or make any gestures. You're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Because that 2 Regigigas, it really sucks when it happens. And in such a crutch situation where there's very little time left and you need to be as aggressive as possible, then this is probably the worst timing to have the 2 Regigigas being prized right now.
And that is absolutely my weak point. If I looked through my deck and the Regigigas was in the prizes, you would see it immediately on my face, like, oh, something bad happened. But now it's back over to Riley. Just 2 benches, no Dragon's Horde, no way to thin down after that Speed Lightning come through. And Riley, just with a couple of metal energies in the hand, surprisingly finds the 4th Arceus V, attaches on the bench, knows that an attack is not going to go through this turn, and wants to just manually attach in order to keep that attached energy safe. We boss up the Regi Ice in order to get that Regidrago out of the active to deny the Dragon's Horde. And there's the pass back for the turn. Trekking Shoes gets rid of a research and finds a path.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the 2nd path in their hand, which is not great. And I'm very surprised they chose to discard that research because the other support that I have is Marnie. And by playing it, you saw how underwhelming a turn Riley had. Why do that, right? And if you know you need to search for that heavy ball, then you want to aggressively go through your deck, and that means research, not Marnie.
Yeah, just play the Professor's research, and I guess it's weird because you're seeing an extra card kind of off of the Trekking Shoes, so maybe it's equivalent.
I mean, fair, but if you factor in the fact that your opponent went when they could have played Marnie or Colress or done way more stuff, they just benched, attached, and passed, right? Or tried to stall you out with a boss. That's usually a good indication that their hand is not great. So helping them out a little bit when you have the choice, I don't like that approach.
Yeah, you're drawing more cards because you still have to find the heavy ball. That's the big target that we have to find. We can't tutor for it. We have to just draw all the cards in the world. Regirock comes through, and it's just the Marnie path angle. Praying, trying to delay your opponent as much as possible. And now that the ball is back over in Riley's court, we've got Pokegear 3.0. 7 cards off the top. We're going to try to find a supporter here.
Yeah, now this turn would have been so good for Jack if he was able to get that KO. Now Riley really needs to find a supporter here of the Colress. Does find the Marnie. And if Riley's able to find a stadium and whatnot, I don't think Riley will be able to take 6 prizes in under 5 minutes, but Jack certainly could have. if Riley, like with that very slow setup, I feel like not digging as deep as you can, as aggressively as you can for that heavy ball in this last game is like he could have stolen the game. He really could have.
When everything is down to the wire, you need to go with a bit more reckless abandon, right? We'll see if the heavy ball maybe comes through in a miracle. We've got the manual attached to the Aurora energy on the Regi Ice, so maybe Blizzard Bind will come through here just after a little bit more help. Because Riley, at the end of the day, is still like in a really passive spot for now. And we'll see what comes off of this Marnie.
Now, choosing to Ultra Ball to establish that Arceus V-Star, and one stadium being played will allow Riley to be able to Starbirth. Would that be the first Starbirth we're seeing in this round? I believe so. Right?
Yeah, this will actually be the first time that Riley would be able to use the Starbirth. Evolves the Arceus on the bench. I like this a lot. It already has the energy attached. So then once we get the Marnie, we just need a stadium.
Yeah, now I do think maybe both players are okay with the tie, right? Like maybe they've both made peace. Riley got a very underwhelming start. Jack had that double kick as fries. So if Riley had gotten a normal start and was applying more pressure here, then Jack would be a little worried. If Riley recognizes or notices that the Gigas is missing and isn't played next turn.
Oh, the heavy ball. So now this means that Jack could try to shift gears, try to get that last second aggression in. We'll see if it comes through.
3 minutes to take 6 prize cards. He certainly can get 2 next turn by knocking out the Arceus. He can take 2 more on the other Arceus, but dealing with that Duraludon needs 2 more turns, right? At least. So that's 4 turns to fit in under 2 minutes, under 3 minutes, sorry.
Right, and that would just be if Jack did his turn, Riley immediately just draw a pass, right? Draw nothing, and you have the full 2 minutes, and then your turn 0 or turn 1 as it may be in order to get those final knockouts. So it's looking to be a tie, but who knows if Regi's going to pull off the miracle. There's the heavy ball. Going to grab a Regigigas immediately.
Yeah, the KO also requires a way to switch out this Regice from the active into the Regirock, so a lot's going to hang on this arena. It's still possible, though. That finding that Hisuian Heavy Ball just opened up at least the possibility. As long as time is available, Jack could close out this game, but the shuffles, every action, it's going to be close.
So once the 6 prizes are redistributed, Jack has got to really blaze through this turn. Regigigas now put onto the bench. We've got a choice belt as well attached to the Regigigas. Might be good to attach this to a different Mom, but it might not matter at this point. There's Serena to discard those down, and we draw back up to 5.
Yeah, Serena for 5, looking for a double turbo or the scoop up net. There's the scoop up net, so that's going to allow Jack to knock out the current Arceus V-Star. I mean Arceus V in the active. But with 1 minute left, I think Jack might end up being like a turn short of the win here.
Yeah, so there is the scoop up net. Gets the Regi Ice back into the hand. Aurora Energy goes to the discard pile. Jack, of course, was just double checking that all of that special energy was there, and it absolutely is. The Ancient Wisdom comes through, and now we've got those beautiful special energy attachments onto the Regirock. Giga Impact going to come through and hit for weakness on Arceus V. That's 2 prizes out of 6, and 40 seconds left on the clock. Just has to announce the attack. Let's go.
Yep, there's a KO. So Jack needs 3 more turns, right? 1 KO on the Arceus V-Star and 2 to KO Duraludon V. Can or will Riley play fast enough to allow Jack that extra turn after time is called?
So with the Colress's experiment, that's 5 cards off the top. 3 need to be selected and 2 will go to the Lost Zone. We've got a lot of energies being offered up here.
No stadium, though.
Still no way to get this Path to the Peak out of the way.
Actually,
nope,
there's a Lost City. Yeah.
Creeping right there in the corner of the hand. So we can get this Path to the Peak out of the way. And those 2 energies are going to go to the Lost Zone. We've already got Duraludon V powered up, so we don't value those as heavily. There's the bump. Lost City comes through. Regirock is going to go to the Lost Zone here in just a moment. Riley double checking the discard pile. As we saw in game number 2, both players have to keep track of every single resource and find out, how do I punish my opponent for using this card? How do I punish my opponent for not having access to that?
And now they're informing players that time, I believe, is up. So Riley, there's no way that they can win. There's no way for them to take 6 prizes. We are going to see Jack, like I said, takes 2 turns to knock out this Duraludon unless Riley makes a mistake of evolving.
They're just double checking with the judges here. Riley is turn 0. Jack's just making sure, okay, I think I might be able to take 2 prizes, take 2 prizes, take 2 prizes.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll finally see the Starbirds. So, I don't know. I feel like we could have seen it the previous game as well. But yeah, there's nothing Riley can actually do at this point other than play super, super defensively. And it seems like that's what he's going to do, grabbing that Hyper Potion and making sure that he can delay Jack's win by another turn.
Yeah, there was that line in game number 2. Jack could have gone a little bit more aggressive, tried to maybe see some more cards earlier in this game to get that heavy ball. Fortunately, the heavy ball came through, which is nice, but just a little bit too late. The Duraludon V just a bit too tanky. And this is, all outside of whether or not Riley's going to have that clutch Hyper Potion once again. So Regirock going to go to the Lost Zone.
Yeah, Regirock does go to the Lost Zone, making it a little bit more difficult to power up. Will draw from the gift energy until 7, but I don't think there's any way Jack can take all 4 prizes within 2 turns. That Duraludon not having evolved ends up being super, super clutch for Jack. Right.
So draws for the gift energy, promotes Regi Drago, has Path to the Peak, going to Professor's Research, get rid of that. No, excuse me, Ultra Ball, Quick Ball. The Quick Ball. It's so strange to shift from everybody having to play really fast because time's about to be called. Then once time is called, things return back to normal. And now I'm still in hype mode. But no, Quick Ball comes through. We have a wonderful, docile play of the Regirock being found. And Ancient Wisdom is back online. Regi Drago's chilling in the active spot, gets his Cape of Toughness. I believe there's still a little bit too many cards in the hand right now to use that Dragon's Horde. But goes for the scoop up net to protect the Regirock. I love that play as well.
Good, yeah. And with the Cape of Toughness, they're also protected from the KO from Duraludon. So under no time circumstances, this game would be very interesting, and Jack would probably be in the driver's seat. Unfortunately, I believe Riley was turn 0. Jack, that was their first turn. This is the second turn for
there's
Riley.
The Hyper Potion. So it's just going to cancel out that attack that just happened. And we are cruising to a tie. Really unfortunate, but still, I think that this was still a great showcase of how dynamic this matchup truly is, right? There is a lot of play, a lot of counterplay, a lot of different angles where you can be more passive or more aggressive. And Duraludon VMAX, isn't just an old dog kind of deck that just wants to kick back on top of Skyscraper and collect its free wins. You do have these matchups where you have to work a little bit harder.
Yeah, on paper, you would expect Regi to have a big advantage with the 4 Path to Peak and Duraludon VMAX just going down immediately. However, that is not the case, as you can go for this unorthodox approach of not evolving. And I think that's something very important if you're trying to improve as a Duraludon player or you're interested in playing this deck, is especially just because you can evolve or just because you can play card doesn't mean you have to. There's actually a lot of value in not playing cards sometimes because there are resources later on, or Duraludon is actually a pretty good attacker in this spot.
Yeah, and with, the Marnies flying back and forth, there's also the decision of whether you feel safe keeping a card in your hand versus playing it. So there's so much tension and so much riding on every single play, it seems. But that's turn 2. The damage goes on to Duraludon V, and there's no way to conclude this one, folks, and it's just going to be a tie. And as you already said, Pablo, this is...